Now, when it comes to Torah, it's actually much easier than you would imagine. But then there's the scary part. The Chachamim discuss the benefits of being a Talmid Chacham. And the Gemara in Masechet Ketubot, page 111a, has a debate between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar. And Rabbi Elazar says that the only people that will be resurrected with the dead, resurrected from the dead after Mashiach comes, some say it's 40 years after Mashiach comes, it's going to be a resurrection of the dead. Rabbi Elazar says the only people that are going to be resurrected are people that are Talmidei Chachamim. Rav Kanievsky. He's going to be resurrected. Am Haaretz, not going to be resurrected. Now, Am Haaretz doesn't mean Rasha. Am Haaretz means he keeps Torah and Mitzvot, he keeps Shabbat, keeps Taharat Mishpacha, keeps the laws. But he's not Rav Kanievsky. He's not a Talmid Chacham. No. So Rabbi Yochanan starts crying to him. He says, well, no, how could this be? What, the Am Haaretz not a Rasha? So why, he's not going to be resurrected because he's not a Gedol Hador, he's not a Talmid Chacham, he's not... So that cancels out the whole generation. So Rabbi Elazar says, what can I do? I'm reading from a pasuk. There's a pasuk in Sefer Yeshaya, the book of Isaiah, chapter 26, verse 19. It writes, may your dead come to life. May my corpses arise, awake and shout for joy. You who rest in the dirt. For your dew, your tal, it's called, dew is tal in Hebrew, is like the dew that revives vegetation. May you topple the lifeless wicked to the ground. So Rabbi Elazar says, look, what I'm saying to you is not from my own head. It's a verse in the Torah, it's a book of Isaiah, that those that will be resurrected are going to be resurrected by the dew. What is the dew but the Torah? Torah is a dew, special dew. Someone that doesn't have Torah is not going to be resurrected. This is also mentioned in Tikkunei HaZohar, in the preface of page 12a, also in the Tikkun number 19, page 38b. It's a few different places where it talks about anyone that is has Tal Torah, has the dew of Torah, will be resurrected with the dead. So now the problem is, what about us? What about us that we're not Talmidei Chachamim, we're not Gedolei Hador, we're not Rav Kanievsky, what about us? So the debate continues between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar. And then Rabbi Elazar says, Rabbi, I found you a source in the Torah that's going to solve this problem. He calls him Rabbi. He says, Rabbi, I found a solution in the Torah. He says, Rabbi Elazar says, I found a tikkun for all of those Amei Aratzot, all of those regular people that are keeping Torah and Mitzvot. How they are also going to be resurrected with the dead. It says in the Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse number 4, it says, "V'atem dvekim ba'Adonai Elohechem, chaim kulchem hayom." That Moshe says to Am Yisrael, but you who cling to Hashem, your God, you are all alive today. But then again it says in verse 24 that Hashem is a fire. That Hashem, your God, is a consuming fire. So he says, how can you glue to Hashem if he's a consuming fire? And then he says, what is the real meaning of this verse that Moshe Rabbeinu is telling us? He says, by clinging to Hashem, since you can't cling to Hashem, by clinging to Talmidei Chachamim, by supporting them, by doing business with them, by helping the Talmidei Chachamim, by helping publicize Torah, by doing that, we are in essence being judged just like the Talmid Chacham himself. Because we are financing the Tal, paying for the due to exist. So he says, these are the two types of people that we resurrected with the dead. those that actually have inherited the crown of Torah, and those that financed it. So this, sometimes you finance it with time, sometimes you finance it with skill, sometimes you finance it with money. Point being is, this is what the Gemara says, what the Zohar says in a few other places, where we see here that if we're worried about Olam Haba, obviously we have plenty of shiurim about reward and punishment and so on and so forth. Many times we're worried about, Olam Hazeh, how do I acquire happiness? How do I get to happiness? How do I do all these different things? The Chazon Ish exactly told us. We have to toil in Torah and do everything Hashem says, whether we agree with it or disagree with it, like it, don't like it. Simply do everything possible to recognize that Hashem is the God, is the only God. There's nothing else but Him. And little by little, allow Him to run your world versus you run your world. And you'll see how your life turns into a series of happinesses. Sometimes it'll be bursts of happiness, sometimes it'll be extended periods of happiness, and you can eventually get to a point where you'll be like the Chazon Ish explains, you'll look like everybody else, you'll appear in appearance, you'll go do mundane things like everybody else. You go to the supermarket, you eat, you drink, but you'll be an angel among men. Why? Because you have this happiness as a result of the knowledge of God. So that's happiness that we're all aspiring to have. That's this world. But then there's the between point. Olam Haba, we know, we always want to go to Olam Haba, Gan Eden, all that good stuff. This world, happiness, we just got a little bit of a taste. Not a lot of understanding, but a little bit of taste of what needs to happen. But the middle point, which is Mashiach comes, resurrection of the dead, same concept. By doing all of this preparation, if you will, learning Torah, fulfilling mitzvot, helping each other out, doing chesed, being honest in business, being honest in marriage, doing all of these different things, it's not just good to do. Oh wow, he's a good guy. No, it's literally survival. You're not learning Torah because it's a good thing to do. You're doing it to survive. And that's the way you have to start looking at things, especially when you don't feel like doing it. I don't feel like going to pray. Okay, who cares? No one asked you if you feel like it. Like God didn't say, do my mitzvot if you feel like it. Like there's no pasuk in the Torah that says that. Keep Shabbat, but only if you feel like it. Watch your eyes, but only if you feel like it. If you don't feel like it, go, look away. I won't look, you look. Doesn't work that way. Meaning that when you don't feel like it, and the fear of Hashem is not working, you have to look at it this way. I'm doing it to survive. And hopefully, as a result of doing it over an extended period of time, you'll also give yourself enough time to learn Torah and start wanting to do it. But again, you're going to have a lot of resistance. Your Yetzer Hara is going to work very, very hard to make sure that you fall off. But this is where Yirat Shamayim comes in. Now the Mikubalim asked, how do you know if somebody has Yirat Shamayim? How do you know if somebody has Yirat Shamayim? They answered, if he looks up at the heavens, looks up at the sky, and he doesn't get emotional to the point of tears, he has work to do on Yirat Shamayim. Why? He says, if you don't look up at the heavens and realize the glory of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, realize how enormous this world is, and how much of a nothing you are, and that doesn't make you emotional, there's a lack of understanding, there's a lack of connection between you and the Creator. Like as long as you think you're big, it's a problem. But as soon as you still think you're big, after looking at the heavens, that's a very serious sickness. You need to get that checked out. Because when you look at the sky, especially when it's a big, beautiful blue sky, and you just look at the horizon, it just never ends. You could just look and look, it just doesn't end. You look how massive the sky is, and then realize that this was created by someone who's surely bigger than that, because not only did he create it, but this is actually one of his smallest creations. The earth is tiny, tiny, in comparison to Hashem's other angels that are floating around like the sun, floating around like other planets, floating around like some meteors and different stars. Tiny. And you're not even the planet. You're a little person inside this planet. So, when a person thinks about how glorious Hashem is, automatically should make him emotional. But that should also bring him happiness. If he knows that Hashem created all of that for you. To serve Him the way He wants you to serve Him. When you do that, it becomes much easier to acquire this happiness. Because now that you know that all of these different tools, whether it's the planet, it's the atmosphere, it's the clouds, it's the rain, it's the trees, it's the cars, it's the other people, it's the IRS, it's the SMS, it's Facebook, it's the table, it's the chairs, it's the clothes, all of these things, all of it was for you to use in order to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the more you look for Hashem in His creation, the more you'll connect to Him, the more you'll know that He exists, the more you'll know that He's in your life, the more grateful you'll become. Because you realize, I can benefit from everything. I do benefit from everything, even if I don't realize it. And surely I can't continue living in this world, getting all of this benefit from this world, without at least saying thank you and following the rules of the Creator. If you still think that you don't need to say any thank you, you still think that you don't owe Him anything, then unfortunately there's not much to do for such cases. There's not much to do for such cases. Because that person has a warped reality. A warped reality of who runs the world and whether they should be grateful or not. And sometimes people like that, they need to suffer a lot in order to appreciate what they have. Many times people get themselves to a point where they have to lose something in order to appreciate what they had. He misses his wife only after she divorced him. He missed his kids and wants to hang out with them after one of them died. He appreciates money after he lost all of it. He respects the job after he got fired. Fools think like that. Unfortunately, there are many fools. But that's the thing. You can choose to be a fool, or you can be happy. Hashem gave us clear instructions of how to be happy. Those same instructions, if not followed, acquire all of the diseases, mental and physical, that we have in the world. That's the key. Following the instruction set that Hashem says acquires happiness. The more you follow, the more precise you are, the more adamant you are, the more zealous you are about following these mitzvot, the more you're going to acquire a piece of this happiness. The bigger your piece is, the more mesirut nefesh, the more self-sacrifice you make for Hashem's Torah and mitzvot, the bigger your piece of the happiness that you're going to get. You can even get a piece like Rav Chaim Kanievsky. He wakes up in the morning and goes to sleep happy. Why? His whole day is full of Torah. His whole day is godliness. The whole day. Imagine, you're worried about, food. You're worried about the IRS. You're worried about paying bills. You're worried about, all types of stupid things that everybody's worried about, that I'm worried about, everybody's worried about. You know what he's worried about? I got to make sure that I do the 8 pages of the Bavli, because I have to already start with my Yerushalmi, and then right after that, I have to do the Midrash. Then after that, that's what he's worried about. Somebody invited him to a wedding. He said, I'm sorry, I have a lot of debts. He said, Rabbi, I'm sorry, you have debts. I have some money, Rabbi. No, you can't. I'm sorry, I have debts. I cannot go to your wedding. No, but Rabbi, I have the money. Who's the Rabbi I owe money to? He goes, no, not money. I have debts. I have obligation. I have to eat 8 pages of the Yerushalmi, 8 pages of the Bavli, 8 pages of this, 8 pages. That's my debt. That's my debt. Torah is my dad. The only thing he thinks about, the only thing that Gedolei Hador think about is Torah. The rest of us also have problems, but our problems are mundane things. Why? Because the Mishnah in Avot says, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, someone that takes on the burden of Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes away the burden of the rest of the world from him. That's why Rav Shalom Cohen Sheikhye, he said, Rav Ovadia, alav Shalom, he doesn't have any desires. Only desire he had is Torah. And more Torah and more Torah. That's the desire that he had. He woke up, he wanted Torah. He wanted to sleep, Torah. That's all he wanted. Now he had issues, he had problems. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu took care of those things. So that's the thing. The more of Hashem we take on ourselves, the more happiness we acquire as a result. The less Hashem, less happiness. Why is there less happiness? Because we have to deal more with the mundane problems. The problems will exist one way or the other, but the difference between the Talmid Chacham and the rest of us is that he has problems, but Hashem sends him the solutions for them. We have problems, but we're on our own. So that's the key. That's the key for all of us to try to make more and more time for Torah, because the more time we make, the more we acquire this happiness that we're chasing anyway. When you're trying to chase your tail in business and all the different things, what are you trying to do? You're trying to acquire happiness. Happiness is in the Torah. It's not your job. Happiness is in the Torah. B'ezrat Hashem, this gives us a little bit more chizuk, a little bit more understanding of what happiness is, but also more importantly, how to acquire it. Every single person can do it. Man, woman. You just have to make the sacrifices that you're making, but for Torah. All of us are making sacrifices every day. You wake up extra early to go to work. You go to sleep early to go to work. You eat certain diet so your body works, and all of these different things you do anyway. Make the same sacrifices for Torah. And you'll see how the rest of the world, little by little, aligns. It doesn't break or anything. Sure, you're going to have tests. Sure, you're going to have different things not work so perfect, right off the bat. The Yetzirah is going to try to interfere and try to stop you. There's going to be a lot of resistance. But the point being is that if you live a life full of sacrifices for Hashem, there's no way in the world that you'll lose. Because if a person, a giant, like the Chazon Ish, that had all of the problems that we would never even want to have, was still able to live this happiness, live this state of ecstasy as a permanent, with all the problems, that means it's not just possible for people that have material possessions. It's possible for the rest of us. It's possible for every person. We just have to use that energy, that focus for Avodat Hashem. If you're doing a half hour a day, go to an hour. If you do an hour a day, 2 hours. 2 hours a day, 3 hours, 4 hours. Whatever you're doing, do more. Do more. That's the whole purpose. Why are you doing more? It's really for yourself. Yeah, it's Hashem. You're doing more for Hashem, but it's not really for Hashem. It's for you. He's perfect. So in essence, you're paying yourself. You're doing it for yourself. You're getting yourself happiness.